In the quiet shadows where fate plays its cruel game, every life is a gamble, every choice a whispered risk. The life lottery begins here, not with a roar, but with a tremor beneath the surface, a subtle fracture in the world as we know it. Step carefully into this first chapter. What you see may only be a beginning, but sometimes beginnings are the darkest places of all. Chapter 1. The Quantum Collapse. Dr. Elias Yarde had once stood on the steps of Parliament Square, his cheers louder than most, drunk on triumph, on certainty. He had called it humanity's greatest moment, a golden age of limitless energy. Now that memory felt obscene. Through the cracked window, the distant cries of another protest carried on the wind, muffled by the unnatural silence that followed every tremor. He didn't bother looking. He already knew the pattern. Shouts, sirens, then nothing. The television flickered in the dim room, muted as it cycled through the familiar images, ration lines stretching for miles, mass relocations, grainy footage of mobs swarming against riot shields. The world was unravelling, piece by piece, and in every collapse, every vanishing coastline, every shrinking horizon, he saw his own handprint. The experiment had been hailed as the salvation of humanity, a golden promise of unlimited, clean energy, a utopia built on the mastery of quantum mechanics, energy harvested from the infinite vibrations of empty space, no waste, no limit, no risk. It was supposed to be safe. Elias had believed that. Or perhaps he'd simply refused to see otherwise. He'd been enraptured by the mathematics, the sheer beauty of the equations. The numbers fit together so elegantly, with a precision that felt almost divine. And so, when the skeptics warned of consequences they could not predict, he'd dismissed them. Not out of arrogance, but because the math was flawless. The experiment, Project Zero, had been humanity's crowning achievement, funded by global coalitions and spearheaded by private corporations eager to carve their share of the boundless profit. It had been lauded as a turning point in human history. And at first it was. Cities lit up overnight with energy harvested from nothing. No fuel, no emissions, no limits. And then the celebration ended. Within months, anomalies surfaced. Atoms subject to zero-point extraction began behaving unpredictably, their waveforms collapsing in ways no simulation could explain. The phenomenon could not be stopped, nor fully understood. What humanity could do was measure the result. The Earth itself had begun to shrink. The first quantum quake went unnoticed by most, just a strange groaning sound beneath the ground, followed by an unsettling silence. No collapsed buildings, no scorched earth, just less. Satellites confirmed the unthinkable. The planet's diameter had shrunk, space itself condensing in a way that defied every known law of physics. The quakes continued, irregular and relentless. Every tremor stole something. Not through destruction, but through disappearance. The Earth was folding inwards, its molecules compressing into something unseen. And at the heart of it, the anomaly pulsed. It remained untouched within the classified facility where Project Zero had first been activated. No one could turn it off. No one could even touch it. Attempts to contain or dismantle it had failed. The machinery around it had been reduced to twisted wreckage, the very fabric of space rejecting any interference. The anomaly was aware, though no one dared say it aloud. But Elias had felt it. During those final months in the lab, before security had locked everything down, he had worked in proximity to the anomaly, running calculations, observing its readings, fighting against the truth. And in those moments, in the sterile glow of the facility, he'd felt something impossible, the sense of being watched. Not by cameras or colleagues, but by it. A pressure in the air, a quiet vibration at the base of his skull, a presence just beyond the threshold of understanding. It was not thought, it was not consciousness. It simply was, and it was looking back. He'd ignored it. There'd been too much work to do. Until the disappearances began. It started subtly. Researchers resigning without warning, reassignments to undisclosed locations. Then it became undeniable. Key figures from the project simply ceased to exist. No obituaries, no funerals, just an empty space where people used to be. Dr. Mishra had been one of the first. She'd come to him weeks before she vanished, eyes shadowed with exhaustion, voice low, with something close to fear.
It's wrong, Elias. The numbers don't add up anymore. Something's in the data. Something that shouldn't be there.
He hadn't listened. He'd been in too deep into his own frantic calculations, too consumed with trying to undo his mistake. And then one morning, Mishra was just gone. No one spoke of it. There was no announcement and no explanation. Elias had gone to her apartment expecting to find some trace of her. A note, a suitcase, a sign of hurried departure. Instead, he found nothing. The rooms were stripped bare, the air stale with disuse. The electricity had been shut off, the fridge empty, the bed untouched. It was as if she had never lived there at all. Then others followed, and outside, the world burned with uncertainty and fear. As the earth contracted, farmland vanished, coastlines retreated, and ecosystems faltered. The life lottery was introduced as the last hope of survival, a calculated cruelty designed as a necessity. The lottery was impartial, selecting names from every corner of the globe. Each new quantum quake brought another broadcast. Names scrolling across screens, each winner given 48 hours to report for the greater good. The euphemism did little to disguise the truth, but everyone went willingly. From the window, Elias watched a scene that had become all too familiar. A family standing outside their apartment, their faces drawn tight with fear as armed enforcers surrounded them. The mother clutched her child, the father stood rigid, his voice rising in protest. The officers did not argue, they only moved forward. The man swung first, fist wild and desperate. A gunshot cracked through the night, and the child screamed. Elias flinched and turned away, his hands pressing against the windowsill as though trying to steady himself, to distance himself from the reality outside. But the sound had already reached him, threading itself into the marrow of his bones. He exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on the floor, but he could still feel the weight of what had happened, what kept happening, pressing against his chest. The mother didn't resist as they dragged her into the waiting transport. No one else in the building came outside. Above the crumbling cities, satellites captured haunting images of the shrinking Earth, its oceans receding, its surface wrinkling like drying fruit. In government bunkers and corporate boardrooms, arguments raged over who could still be saved, and who had already been marked. But far beyond Earth, beyond the grasp of human perception, something else was happening. The anomaly's influence was not confined to this world. A signal had rippled outwards, not a broadcast, not a plea for help, just an echo. An anomaly in space-time, radiating across the void, and something out there had answered. It was not a voice, not a message, not even an acknowledgement, just a shift, a disturbance in the dark. Elias didn't know this, no one on Earth did, but far beyond the dying world, where even light dares not trespass, something turned its attention towards the anomaly, towards the ones who had created it. It didn't move, it didn't speak, it only watched, for now. The thread has been cast, but the web is far from complete. The web before the storm carries secrets, unseen, unspoken, waiting to surface. In the next chapter, the edges of reality will start to unravel, and what has been lost will call out in silence. If you're ready to face what lies beyond, subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next descent into the unknown. Like this video if the shadows spoke to you, and follow The Stars Are Hollow for more stories that linger long after the last word. Until then, Watch the darkness carefully, because it's always watching back.
The stars they hide.